War. War never changes.
Hey guys, Demented here, and welcome to a visual novel called Trick or Treat. Start. For whatever reason, this is their full screen. Oh.
Let me hit up 11.
Yeah, that's helpful. The sound of our steps, combined with that the occasional nocturnal animal, is the only thing we can hear. Let me... Okay. Sorry about that. The sound of our steps, combined with that of the occasional nocturnal animal, is the only thing we can hear. It's terribly dark in this place, and the dense vegetation makes it impossible to see the sky or light from the moon. I'm sorry, I don't like reading out aloud, so forgive me on that. Our flashlights are the only things that light up our way. And you hear Daniel in the background. At times like this, one begs to not run out of a battery. We walk without knowing we are really looking for what we are really looking for, or better said, for no reason. Like a reading disability. I can read just fine, but it just makes it a little difficult. We are just a group of boys, bored with our lives, trying to create a memory on this night, instead of staying home and doing nothing. Today is October 31st, All Hallows Eve, better known as Halloween. 3 young men walk through the dark, but up until now, nothing special. Forrest McNeek being one of them. What? Was that even English? We are doing it to prove our courage. It's too bad there isn't a girl here to see how brave we are. It did start out in Spanish, so it might be a bad translation. Seeing it like that, one could say this is a meaningless effort. For a moment, I stop to look at my watch. It's 1:49 in the morning. That means we have been walking aimlessly for more than 2 hours now. I am sure that many people would find a place like this terrifying. But once you get used to it, the fear disappears, making it feel like normal. What makes us afraid of the dark is that we cannot know what hides in it, what lurks in the shadows. But this is clearly an empty darkness. At that moment, I sigh, feeling how tired my legs are. What is the point of being here? Clearly, we had already demonstrated what we had wanted. It would be best to return. I should tell them. I was about to speak when suddenly the atmosphere in the forest became strange. Suddenly, a cold chill runs through my body. It was like any other chill, except it was not going away. Why did I turn into Batman all of a sudden? For no reason, the air's temperature dropped from one second to the other. So much so, my breath becomes visible, turning into mist. It isn't in there. The air is now filled with a rotten smell, just a little short from being unbearable. I'm not intentionally doing a voice. Well, I'm doing a voice, but I mean an accent. That's what I meant. Images of worms and flies soon appear in my mind, giving me a really unpleasant feeling. We all stop at that moment. What's happening? I asked, confused, while turning around to look for my friends, or at my friends. By the expression on their faces, it was easy to know that they were just as lost as I was. It was then that we heard footsteps nearby that did not come from any of us. We all got dead quiet after that. I don't know if it was out of fear or to check if it was not a mistake, but we stayed motionless, like statues, without making a noise. Just looking at each other's faces, wondering the same thing. What's happening? As if I could know. We heard the steps again, and clearly belonged to a human. At least to a large animal, but there was something strange about them. It sounds as if the person walked dragging one foot. Just thinking about it made me shiver. Damn, why is this happening? It makes no sense. We should have returned home before, but now it's too late to regret it. I have the feeling that we are being stalked by someone. The strange footsteps stop, but I'm still feeling the presence nearby. I don't know where it is, but I know it's looking at me. That cursed thing is looking at me. My heart is beating anxiously. It's almost as if my body was telling me to get out of there. But strangely, my friend seemed unable to perceive it. It seems as if it's gone. It must have just been an animal. I'm going to rate all the friends the same, apparently, because it's not giving them names, so I can't differentiate between them. Said one of them, convinced that we were safe. I would like to believe that, too. We had a sigh of relief, however, bad luck would soon strike us again. Unexpectedly, the forest becomes darker than ever before in just the blink of an eye. But that wasn't the fault of the forest, but of our own flashlights which went out. Of the three, only one, mine, was still working. What's going on? Did the batteries die? Asked one of them, scared, while they both beat them desperately as that was going to revive them. I can't blame them. The idea of walking in the darkness wasn't pleasant for anyone. But after a few moments, we had no choice but to resign ourselves to that. Once more, the sound of our footsteps is heard, but the silence is different now. Well, we are not quiet because we have nothing to say, but because we are afraid. We continue walking despite the fear that invades us. Visibility is almost at zero, but we have no choice. Kind of turning into Dracula there. In theory, we were walking back looking for the exit, but I cannot remember anything of this forest. We could be walking in circles. Little British beetle there coming out. We could be walking in circles. And I would never notice until it was too late. I hate the thought of it. Just want to get out of here. Oh, out of it! Suddenly my thoughts were silenced. I hear the footsteps of someone or something. Once more, the three of us became statues awaiting the presence to go. I hold my breath while feeling my heart beating anxiously. Damn! Get away from here and just leave us alone! Unexpectedly, the steps are heard closer. This time, they do not disappear, but rather come at us. I can't stand it. Desperately, I move for my flashlight everywhere looking for the author of the footsteps. hoping for the light to reveal the identity and erase our fears. Nothing, nothing, nothing! Is that all there is around here? Just empty air! My anxiety grows with each failed attempt. I refuse to believe that it was a ghost. Suddenly, when I move the flashlight again, I see a silhouette. I could not distinguish what it was, but for a moment, the light revealed something. Quickly, I point to the same place, only to discover it was gone. I hold my breath anxiously, as it was not an illusion. I am sure I saw nothing. It was then that I heard something nearby. Without even thinking, I aimed the light towards that place. What I found leaves us paralyzed with expression of disbelief in our faces. It's a white cat with eyes of intense red, which stands before us. Her look is not the friendliest, to say something. Somehow I get the feeling it's a female cat. Suddenly it lets out a thunderous meow that leaves us terrified. It sounded more like a lion roaring than a simple cat. The echo of her meow is heard throughout the forest, making it sound more sinister than it should be. It was then that suddenly an inexplicable force hits us three. I fall to the ground, and little by little my eyelids close. The fatigue becomes unbearable. I lose consciousness on the ground of the forest without knowing what was going to happen with me. Interlude before night falls. Huh? Is that it? Oh, there it is. It is a day like any other, so normal that it's almost painful. The only special thing that can be said about it is that it's October 31st. First? Okay. Far were the memories when I was a kid and went out with my friends to ask for sweets from house to house. Just remembering it made me sigh. I feel nostalgic. Some things were better when I was a child, or at least seems like that. There were some who had good costumes, whether superheroes or monsters. My friends and I, on the other hand, had to use our imagination. Creativity was our costume, and you could say, no matter how funny it could sound. I'm just doing what feels natural for a voice, by the way. I'm not doing it, like, intentionally, no voice. I mean, the voice I'm doing intentionally, yes, but I mean, any accent or anything that comes through it is not intentional whatsoever. So, just remember that. I remember that my mother once painted red in my face and told me, "You will be the devil." But it seems only she saw it that way when we went from home to home. Everyone said I was the Tornado Man. But those things didn't matter to me, since we always had a good time. If I asked for candy now, even if I had the best costume, I'm sure no one could give me anything. Except perhaps a scolding for acting like a child when I was 17 years old. But anyway, I can't stand the past. I must live in the present, no matter how little exciting that might be. Back to reality. We are a group of friends who don't have any plans for today. We are still not old enough to go to a disco. How old do you have to be? And I doubt guys as us would have any luck in that environment. The other option would be to go to a party, meet girls, and have some fun. Everything perfect, except nobody had invited us. Not being popular has its disadvantages. Hey Axel, let's have a couple matches. What do you say? Oh, my friend Steven called my attention. While playing with the game console. I just realized that was another friend. Rush Red, I believe that's what the game's called. A fast and quite complicated fighting game for me. I would normally agree to play with him, but for some reason, I don't feel like in the mood today. I have no desire to play with you right now. I replied with discouragement. I almost feel bad for doing it. Boring! The AI is no rival for me, Steven said with confidence. That you're playing on normal difficulty does not help your argument. I don't feel like losing, but if you want to challenge, or if you want, you can challenge it to Alfred, I said, leading the attention to my other friend. I don't know how to play that, answered Alfred, doubting for a second. He is sitting behind the PC, but it seems that he isn't doing anything interesting. The screen only shows a lot of text. I think he's in Wikipedia. Hey, don't you have something more fun to do? I asked with discouragement, without even thinking about what he was reading. Alfred looks at me surprised. The actual problem of society is that people are not interested in discovering their history. He is one of those pseudo-intellectuals always looking for any rare information to appear smarter than others. When we forget our past mistakes, we are doomed to repeat them, he added later. What are you talking about? This village is small and its story is not interesting at all. Nothing outside of the normal has ever happened in it. Alfred laughs mockingly after hearing that. Your ignorance is worthy of praise. He pauses, feeling his chest of pride. The very fact that this is a small town is the reason it's full of mysteries. Did you know that 20 years ago on this date, a man disappeared? So what about it? Wrong voice. So what about it? I asked without being impressed or even interested in the least. Things like that happen all the time in all places. As I thought you don't know the history of despite living in this very place, Alfred said while adjusting his glasses and arrogant gesture. My nose is plugged up so it doesn't help. There's a legend behind the disappearance. That is what I'm reading. After listening to him, I looked back at the computer screen with curiosity. It is then that I noticed that it was not Wikipedia, but some other page. Come on, read this and learn a little, Alfred said, inviting us to read what was on the screen. While Steven and I moved in closer to read it. Sorry, I had a burp. Town of Abingdon, Oxfordshire. I cannot speak. Country, 1994. I came to this town with only 4,000 inhabitants to support them in an investigation. The truth is that never in my life have I seen something this strange. I won't say your typical detectivist nonsense that I have seen 1,000 of strange things in my life. I have seen many crimes, yes. Some difficult to solve, but all of them human. Even if you don't know how they managed to perpetrate the crime, you know that they are people like anyone else. In this case, I don't think I'm able to say the same thing. Truth is, I can't understand what happened. I was called for the disappearance of a man named Matthew Graham. 23 years ago. 23 years old. Single. The last time he was seen was returning home from a Halloween party. He had drank alcohol, but was still sober, or at least that's what the witness said. Anyway, this is not something which can be explained with a simple drunkenness. He apparently got lost on the way home and decided to enter the forest called Oakwood. It had rained yesterday, so the ground was wet and muddy. We could easily find his traces which were leading deep inside the forest. Apparently, he walked for 3 hours before stopping. I say stop, but the truth is, we don't know what happened to then. The tracks suddenly ended up in a clearing in the forest, and that's all. There was no evidence of a struggle, no other trace, or pieces of clothing on the ground. There was no blood, no more footprints, anything else. The depth of his last footprints and the position they were indicated that he was still walking. At no point he stood still. It was as if he had vaporized into the air. With all his clothes, in the middle of his walk. Obviously, I can't believe such a thing, but I can't give another explanation. The only thing I remember is that near the footprints I sensed a faint smell of rot. However, there were no animal corpses nearby. It is ridiculous to think he suddenly started to decay and just became earth. In the end, the case was closed in just 3 days. With no evidence of any kind, we couldn't say anything but that he had decided to escape from the village. However, while officially there was no more to do, I couldn't sleep at peace. Thinking about what could have happened to him took away my sleep. In my mind, I thought all sorts of theories, like maybe everything was a plan developed by Matthew, but in the end, they all seemed impossible. I decided to investigate more on the issue. I searched the town for similar stories, and to my surprise, I found 4 more. All young men. The story was always the same. They walked into the forest alone, disappearing without trace. Even more curious is that all of them disappeared on the same date, October 31st. But there is more. A detail that completely eliminates the possibility that there is a killer or kidnapper behind this, and that is a separation of the years. Roger Bacon disappeared in 1924. Michael Smith, 1867. Jason Black, 1813. And the worst of all, Oswald Taylor, disappearance 1707. It simply couldn't be possible. My curiosity led me to dig deeper. I thought the answers may be in the past of the forest. It was then that I discovered what seemed to be simple and boring forest actually hid a great story. The forest called Oakwood or Oaks Forest, the place was called Witchwood. The word witch has a huge similarity with witch, taking into consideration that it is an old name and the language changes over time. That indicates that it was the forest of witches. Apparently, more than 400 years ago, the people of the village believed witches lived in the woods. Unfortunately, almost all the information is already lost. They were stories told in voice, without a properly written record. I just know that with the change of religion to Christian, people stopped seeing the witches with good eyes and began to hunt them. Apparently, the last one before her death cast a curse on the forest, which even today should continue to exist. Anyway, obviously I cannot accept something like that as my answer. In the end, I have no other choice than accepting that each one of them escaped from the village, using the legend of the forest to make it look like something supernatural. Interesting story. I didn't know that such a story was hiding in this town. Okay, we are going to save. And I'm going to leave this one here because my cheeks are starting to hurt from talking so much. So anyway, leave a like if you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.